That's okay, though. I'll take the credit for it.
Okay, I got it. You know what? Go stand in the corner.
I remember seeing that, but I never.
That's it. You know what? Just go stand in the corner, Catherine. You're done. You're done! Then there was it's a beehive that is above Ken's head.
Assuming who looked like you.
We were trying to get there's me. No, I look like me.
No. Maybe he saw your picture and thought you were someone else. I have no idea. So I can't reach from Is that a video camera?
What?
Is that a video camera?
No.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh. Which is too bad because I have my power cable with me.
Am I smart? And she starts to turn left on one of the speakers. That's where the thing said.
Carl's got it. Nice ball.
How is John? He's
You make identifiers. So for the service's purpose, given that in early language, I can't Egyptian doesn't exist. It's a color.
It's not. I also in turn do not have any costume.
Turning the tables on Doc and by filming him. Now I'm filming you too.
No, I'm filming you, filming me.
Ha!
I'm in the middle.
I don't know how many of you have been, briefed on exactly what we're going to be doing here, but basically we're going to be discussing telling stories within the Myst and the universe. Barnes, Brian Fioca, Echo McKenzie, and Douglas Sharper is here. So let me do a few introductions, but I need to get this chair back so people can sit in it. Well, I'll let you guys take over from here because you know what you're doing better than I do. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. And just take a chance to thank all the people from Cyan who are here, scientists, former and present. Thank you very much for hosting us, and thank you very much for giving us a world that we all care about so much that we're willing to come out in 100-degree heat for. So, thank you very much. And this panel is mostly just to talk about where story fits into the Dunning universe in general, Myst and Uru, and all of its different incarnations. So I want to kind of start with going to the panel and just kind of say, what do you think is most important about story in Dunning? Look at any version of it, book, game, whatever. And start from that end and work through it.
This is what I get from being in charge.
Yes.
I think one of the most important things about story is the absolute wealth of material we have to work with. There's so much of it, there's so much detail that you can pretty much go to any point, any resource that Cyan has given us and start working with it and build a story and create aspects of the universe for your very own. So that I think is my, I think the biggest asset in my view.
I would follow that with depth. this story depth taken from Tolkien and Lord of the Rings. We've all heard the stories that he created a massive backstory before he started actually writing the story. I think that would be one of the things that we tried really hard to do, is create a massive backstory that sometimes you heard, sometimes you didn't. But what that did was solidify the story that you did hear and make it seem more realistic, make it seem more exciting, really, just more real. And so I would say the depth was one of the key points, main highlights of the story for me and Denny.
I guess extending from depth, I think one of the unique characteristics of the story that the Myst universe has is it draws in you. Like all of the Myst stories, the ones that we all know, involve you very personally and specifically. And I think that's the key to making it work. I think like landing in Myst Island and being on Ribbon and being in the cavern and being part of the groups that formed and affecting everything in the story in your own way actually contribute, like that combined with the depth and the breadth just sort of makes it all click to everybody. And I think that's part of the key of why it works.
I don't know if there's more I can add to that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's when we talk about depth, the detail. I always refer to as texture, and that in the sense that no matter what you actually see, whether it's the books, a machine you see in an age or whatever, you know that there's something else behind it. That there's, potentially hundreds of years of history that might be behind it. It's not just story; it's archaeology. It's being in the world that obviously more than you, and it's presented in a very real way. We just don't get here's our dictionary of like, okay, everybody turn to page 25, and that's what Etter So is all about. It's the sense that it's presented to us as we would see life, and very often what we see in it is what we see in it. No matter what the designers had in mind. We add our own attachments, we add our own depth to it, we add our own meaning to things that the designer may not have ever even thought of. And I think that's the real mark of artwork, is that we're not only does you say something that means something, it's that other people can mean things with what you did. I don't know if you want to have a chance to open up. Is there any questions for everybody that's up here?
Just to talk about some other things too.
Oh, sure, go for it.
I'm actually curious about, I know most of the people here on this panel have involved everybody here, well, most of the people here in some way. I'm curious about how each of us, or each of you did it, and what are the secrets for getting people to come along into the story they're trying to tell and get them involved and what's going on.
Okay. All right. So, I know that at J.D. Barnes, one of the things that I focused on was not actually a plot line. I focused on personality. J.D. is a person. He has history, he has opinions, and he interacts with people. And that's what I think became very personal. One of the best things that I saw that was where I was looking at one of the forums, and they said, that they really enjoyed talking to me because I responded, and I remembered who they were. It was like, oh yeah, how's it going? So how's the family doing? That sort of thing. It really, for me, was about making those personal connections. And hopefully by the fact that I had some people who were listening to me, I can make those people become important. Try to mention things, so-and-so made some great art, let's mention it to other people. And that's kind of that expanding connection of interest.
Okay, I think for me, actually, it was largely just a factor of getting people to go the direction they already wanted to go. I didn't need to know very much about the history of Denis or anything. In fact, I didn't when I was sort of playing my role. But it was really easy for me to come into an area and find somebody that wanted to talk about something that was going on, and just let them talk. Let them talk and let them get other people involved and sort of help direct the conversation in the direction that was the way I kind of wanted it to go, and just sort of see where it went. And I think the most successful people in getting the story going in Uru and all of those sorts of online communities don't drive too hard. they don't have an agenda. They have an agenda, but they don't drag people along with them. They let people go in the direction they want to go. They take them there. They sort of open their mind to new things very gently and see what's going to happen that way. And the ones that I saw that were not successful, I think, were just too aggressive in trying to just sort of force people in a direction that they weren't really ready to go down or weren't really interested in. So I tried to sway them.
So first off, though I'm sitting here for Sharper, I'm just the guy that typed the stuff a lot. I feel like I represent a team of people, obviously of Cyan. So we probably came at it a little different perspective of wanting to get you guys involved so that we didn't have to be on the computer as often. And I mean, really, we've talked about this a lot of how do we kind of pass the celebrity status onto players, because really there were a few people, characters in the game, Sharper one of them, who kind of got this celebrity status. It was cool coming out with Sharper. Now, unlike these guys, we didn't need to remember names because Sharper wasn't that kind of guy. Just ignore you anyway. But no, so we kind of wanted to just pass the celebrity virus on to people, if you will. And part of that came with Brian. I mean, we kind of wanted to create this player who was in the game more than we were and kind of pass it on as, hey, he's almost like Sharper being here now. Because Sharper likes this guy and he's connected with him and he's giving him information. And really maybe at the foundation of all this, I mean, you want information. Which is why Sharper, I would say, is more of a celebrity, because he has information. He's Cyan. He's going to give you information that you can't get otherwise. So everybody wants to talk to him. Maybe you'll be the person that got some information. And we wanted to give that out little bits here and there, but really, again, we just wanted to create other celebrities in the game. We started to do that. I'm not sure we ever did it completely successfully, but that was kind of the goal.
Echo started out completely as almost an experiment. I just had this little seed of an idea in my head, and I said, well, let's go with it. She was very evolutionary. She became what people thought she was. So when people started interacting with her and saying, oh, she does this, oh, she does this, oh, she does this, then she, sometimes she would do that, sometimes she would, she really, I mean, those of you who are authors or writers, you get it when a character has a mind of their own and you write something and all of a sudden it was like, oh, they did what? Yeah. I can do that a lot. And a lot of stuff, I just wanted to be there and be present and interact with people and see what happened and how they would react. She would kind of do her own thing sometimes. Sometimes she would just be sitting there. And people would get curious, and then it just spread. It spread so much faster than I expected that all of a sudden, everybody was talking about the crazy ghost chick. And then from there, there was, well, she's a seer, well, she's a psychic, well, she's this, and I was very careful never to have Echo say any of those things, because that wasn't what she would do. That wasn't like her to say, yes, I'm the cavern seer. But the stories she told, some of them I made up on the spot. As people were asking me questions, some of them I would do a little bit of research. I do storytelling as a hobby anyway. I do oral storytelling as a hobby. So some of them I would take and adapt stories I knew and give them a Denis flavor. Other times it was just come up with something. So that was just kind of Echo, is just be there, be present. She did the kind of immersive thing where she, acted like she really was in the cavern, but she, never gave anybody flack for not doing it. But it would spread a little bit if she was being like that, then other people would tend to respond like that. So it was a little newish in that way.
Can we ask a question?
Oh yeah, good.
This is Mr. Sharper. I was curious if while you were doing your thing in the game, if you had a team there where you were sort of discussing, okay, what do we want to do here and whatnot. And how did you choose these celebrities? I mean, how did you, Brian or the other fellow you took hunting with you?
Oh, Grills.
Grills? very active, personable, likable maybe. and then who pulled the trigger and said, that's the guy right there. And then, of course, he could decline to be part of it, I suppose. How did that happen? How did that process happen?
Well, for the first question, the team, sometimes we would have a team, sometimes it would just be me because we had talked about it enough. And that kind of gets back to the depth and kind of what Eleri was saying. We knew who Sharper was. He was a character. When you got into Sharper, you start to know what he would say, how he would act, his backstory, his parents, all of this stuff. We would talk about it when we wanted to kind of take it. So most of the time it'd just be me or Raul would come by or whoever, unless it was a big story, major point in the story, we really needed to hash it out perfectly, which was pretty rare. As far as Brian, I don't remember.
I remember actually. It's a really disappointing story. I was in the city in like the third day that I was there. It was like really early on after Prologue opened, and Sharper was in the city looking for people who recognized him. You were basically saying, does anybody know who I am? So I was like, oh, I remember you from the journal. So I started talking, and the DRC came up, and I was like, yeah, it's a shame that they're blocking us off. We should revolt. And Sharper was like, yeah. And then we talked a little more, and the next thing I knew, I came back on a few hours later, and like 4 people were looking for me, saying that Sharper decided that they needed to talk to me about a revolution. So from then on, it was like 20-hour days straight for me.
Now, that does sound very random, but again, if once we're in there as Sharper, it all makes sense. You're kind of playing the Sharper character. This guy comes along. Oh, you recognize me? Hey, we should do revolution. Yeah, we should. And it just kind of goes from there. So again, with the depth and the character of him, there were certain people that would fit. It just, this person would work with Sharper. This person's kind of underground. Maybe not everybody knows him. Maybe he's got some harsh feelings towards the DRC or whatever. This person obviously doesn't fit. So it's weird how those characters kind of take on their own role, and when you're in there in the game as them, you find people that are attracted to Sharper that would work with him, and it just kind of takes off on its own.
And he stayed in character. The whole time he was asking me if I trusted people that he would then go to and like mini celebritize them, and it was all kind of on my shoulders to make sure that they were okay. And I only did a good job of that part of the song.
Now, how about Rills? Rills was on the expedition into Megalon. How did you shoot Rills?
Again, before I came here, I was trying to go through old notes to even remember half of this stuff. I don't remember the exact way that we even found Rills. Does anybody? Raul?
He wanted to go out and look and see. He wanted to go out and find what was happening out there.
So he came to us kind of a thing.
When he was doing the Dunedin Zoological Society,
Right.
so
That's
the whole
right.
expedition out to see the animals.
Right.
And Rills is actually a biologist in real life. So that's
We did find that out quickly in talking to him. But again, just in the game, Sharper goes into the game, just like you guys find friends or people you mesh with that you would go on an adventure with. Sharper became this character. We're in there as Sharper. People come up to him, they're drawn to his character, and just like you find friends, he finds friends, and it works, and we go make those friends celebrities or whatever. Take it from there.
Any questions or not?
Now, scars. There was a rumor that there was a player that lost track that it was just a game. That they were calling for somebody to go down there and rescue, or somebody call the police, somebody get some rescue down there, essentially. How does that type of level of interaction kind of change the way that your story feels? Does that kind of make you think that you need to limit it back? Or is it kind of just, is that something that you're actually shooting for?
I don't remember that specific case, but I had to deal with a lot of those people, actually. People who sort of come in and are just so lost in it that they feel like they're part of it. I couldn't tell whether they were being serious or not, actually thinking that it was real, or just trying to get so much recognition that they were just really selling it hard. And it's challenging because people, I'm not sure Hey, you guys,
Oh,
when was this?
that was for Scars during the actual time when they were trapped. The two girls were trapped in the Barrow cave, and they were apparently people were trying to tell her or tell the people that were still down there to draw signs for water, try to get the Barrow to recognize and release them.
Does anyone remember that somebody was,
Somebody
we need to
might-
call the police, do we need to,
I mean, I think that some people like just lose touch, and they're not. I mean, that's fine, but you kind of have to manage them a different way because they could easily disrupt what's going on for everybody else. Like you don't want somebody in there who's going to ruin everybody else's fun because this is not good, and you don't want to make a scene, so you kind of have to sort of do what you can to sort of manage them away. Like I've had a few times where like it was me and Sharper actually in a situation, and somebody would like come up and just kind of start to try to dominate the scene, and like there was a story trying to unfold, and we just sort of had to try to like play them down or distract them in some other way so that they wouldn't. I mean, it sounds mean, but I mean, really, we were trying to make sure that everybody else had fun, and it was just sort of it was a challenging situation. You have to be sensitive, but you also have to make sure that everybody else is involved.
it's really a fine line, being able to do story and interact with people in a place that's supposed to be real.
Yeah.
And it's real people sitting there, and it's real people playing themselves, and being themselves, and in some cases being, a little tangential from themselves. And still understanding that it's a game, but it's still real people. And because it's very personal, when you go into World of Warcraft, you're playing at work, you're playing a game, you're consciously stepping outside of yourself. In Uru, you were still yourself. And so that line between just the game and virtual reality was very, very blurry, which I think was really good in that, like the Scars, it hit everybody like a ton of bricks. Nobody was left unaffected by Scars. You could sit there and go, it's just a game, this is all characters, but you were still feeling it. And I think that was kind of a hallmark of the potential that was there to have that sort of, we could sit there in our heads and go, this is just a game, but our hearts are going, oh my God, somebody just died and I just watched it happen.
I think that sort of connection is the strength of the group as well. Once again, a lot of people both in our community have made comments about the fanatical nature of the Myst fan. Both the positive and negative, I've heard them all. But the fact is that not just can we be invested in the stories themselves, we become part of the stories. Uru is more than just for a lot of people than just a couple of games. It's a community. It's why we're here. Several of us come to Mysterium every year, so we can see these people. We can talk the same language, whether it's English or Udemy, that sort of thing. So it's once we get to virtual reality, feelings can get hurt because we're doing the things we normally wouldn't. But at the same time, it allows us to make connections that we normally wouldn't make.
I remember a specific instance where I actually, in Cavern, as Eleri, yelled at Vid in Cavern. It was when he was sneaking into the city, when it was supposed to be closed off. I just chewed him out up one side, down the other. I get an IM on the DRC forum a couple days later. I'm so sorry, Cavern. You're fine, I'm not mad at you at all. Really, I'm sorry I didn't communicate that clearly before I started yelling at you. I should have, hindsight being what it is. I should have IM'd him and said, going icy now, trust me, so he would have been warned because he thought I was really mad at him. And he was hurt, and he was upset, and he felt bad. And then I was hurt because I'd upset a friend very deeply. So I did it to Grey Dragon once too. I messaged him and said, whatever I say in Cavern, this is not what I'm thinking. Trust me.
What's done in the cavern
Stays in the cavern.
So I just want to say from our perspective, perspective, I mean, we created this cool experiment and then hideous experiment at times. I mean, I don't know if you've heard the Stanford prison experiment in the 70s. Took college students, and within 2 days, friendly college students who are playing prison guards are beating friendly college students who are being the prisoners, and they're organizing a revolt. I mean, this is what happens to humans when you're put in a new situation and surrounded by the environment that's different. You suddenly start to take on these roles. And so it does speak to Uru that this became kind of more of a game. It was an environment in which we lived. That part of it was really cool, except then when it did leak out of the cavern and we're seeing forums of people whose feelings were really hurt, or they're angry with us, or they're angry with each other. I mean, as the creators of this game, that's not really what we want, is for people to be mad at each other in real life. So I'm not sure that we ever really had time to figure all that out, this massive experiment. I mean, we loved that everyone got so involved, and we tried to be real careful and didn't sometimes, especially with Sharper and stuff that went on there. You know, we got people mad and ticked off at us and angry at even the whole wheelie thing. I mean, people got really involved, and so we were always fighting. Man, it's so cool how involved everyone is, but also let's remember this is a game. And that spreads to games in general. I mean, remember we were at a conference in Boston with a lot of game designers, and there was a whole session on people saying, you know, we're hearing people playing online games and the babies screaming in the background, and it's like, oh, well, hold on a second, I gotta, kill this dragon first, and while my baby's screaming. And, I'm not cool with that. Most people weren't. So there's some responsibility in creating something like Uru, and I think we were trying to figure that out. And if you were angry with us or you ended up hating your friend, please forgive us.
Any more questions?
Any questions?
For each of you, what moment in the story was the best moment for you, and what moment was your greatest disappointment?
You were doing great until that end, Martin.
Do you mean specifically in Uru, or in the mythos as a whole, or as we were playing our characters? Or
Let's narrow it down to the characters, the involvement of the characters. For those characters, what was your most shining moment, and what was your most disappointing moment?
My favorite moment was linking into the cavern one day and having somebody walk up to me and say, "Tell me a story." That was it, that right there. And then starting and having a crowd gather. Not because it was a crowd, because it was people who wanted to hear. And one of the things that I did with Echo of wanting to tell the stories of Denis as it was something that was dear to me as a person. There's so much of Denis that, we were always running around in this desolate cavern, and Echo could see it full of people and alive and as a living, thriving community. And that's what she wanted to share with everybody else. So having somebody come and say, tell me a story about Denis was amazing. And then I sat and went, now I have to come up with a story. Okay. And it ended up being a pretty good one, but, so that was a little, here, let me go AFK for a minute and listen to the stones. That was actually, Echo going AFK was me going, okay, what do I do here? So, worst moment for me, Echo got a lot of insults. Echo did get a lot of insults. I let him roll off my back a lot, but there was a part that was like, I could see almost a contingent, not a contingent of people, but this mood among some people of, she's just insane, she's crazy, and we really just should make fun of her all the time. And I was worried about that growing because I didn't want that to take away from the stories she could tell. I didn't want this idea that she was a seer or a psychic or, however she was getting the stories. I was afraid of that overwhelming the stories she actually had to tell.
Highlight for me was, I don't know if it wasn't really Sharper directly, but I mixed them all up because we were in on all of them. Was the whole wheelie thing. I remember we were all, seeing Rand back there, and Carl was here. I remember we were all in the QA department that night. I think the Barrow came and was, I don't remember if it was when they captured wheelie. But I just remember we were all walking around, we're getting chills, and we're reading what everybody's saying. It was like, man, this is so cool, this is working. And people are emotionally engaged in this story big time, just like we wanted them to be. And they were eating it up, and we were eating it up. We were like, this is what this game can be. And Wheelie, it had built up to this moment. We had the dramatic conclusion. We had props that fed the story. We had stuff written out. It's probably our most planned out story as well, which is probably why it came off the best, or at least in my opinion. But that was a moment where I think for most of us, correct me if I'm wrong, that was exciting. Like, man, this could be so cool if we could dedicate this amount of time and content to everything in the game. This would be an amazing story all the time.
By the way, that really stuff, that was like a year, or more.
Right.
We put really into the cavern. Tara, my daughter, played really. Just go in there and do it. Here's the form. Ryan gave her all the stats about Louie and just play. And she had no agenda other than just go around and make friends and be yourself as Louie, like a year or more before anything happened. So there was a long art in there of that. So that even made it more. Drawing to a close was huge, and you see the potential. I agree.
I know that one of the comments I saw on the forum right after the death of Willie, someone was like, I was just talking to her. We took her through Kadesh Shalessa with her friend. And it was, horrifying. I mean, it was a character everybody knew, but we still said, that's real to me, and now it's gone. So.
Worse? Try to remember here. I don't know. Do we have a word?
To me, Ryan and I a lot of times were like one person in the game, so he would do stuff, but we talked a lot about it. It would be a lot, in my mind, our inability to really get the celebrity thing, to get the balance right. Like when you try to get people to engage them in the game, but we weren't sure how to pass the torch of celebrity, and then people start getting mad at them, like you're not part of that, and I mean you guys probably kind of same thing, like no, I am, but no, you're not. And you give information, make them seem bad, but sometimes we didn't have the information, like how do we do this? And you're trying to just jump up, figure it out at the same time. You've got kind of disappointing. We start up something and think it would work, and then we just all dribble down and hang it like figure out how to make it work.
Get up here so you don't have to keep yelling at her.
Yeah.
Take a chair. Come on.
Come on, Bob. Come on.
Go.
Yes.
You have to be up
And
here
yes.
eventually anyhow.
I'm going to
Would be, since I was mainly involved in the prologue, would be the guild hall collapse where Phil disappeared, aka died, aka whatever. That was so well put together. It was so coordinated. They had all of the characters were there. The city was full. There was so much interaction between just the population at large and the characters and the environment. Like when the guild hall actually collapsed, it was a physical effect, and it actually happened. You could see it, and it was just so amazing to have all that energy going and people kind of arguing about what's good and what's bad, and then all of a sudden there's proof. Okay, wow, those guys are right, and I'm sitting there thinking, what did they do to me? Like I've been saying that you can do this the whole time, and then now Phil's gone, and what am I going to do? And Kadama's laughing at me and all this stuff. That was quite a highlight though, because it was just the culmination of a lot of stuff. A disappointing thing for me actually is it's not really a storyline thing. It's sort of like my own kind of falling. Like Brian was talking about the prison guard experiment, and one of those cases was when Sharper came to me after we had some secret meetings, and one of the people that was in the secret meetings went and told Engberg about some things that we were talking about in the secret meetings, things about blackmailing the DRC members or something like that. Which was of course supposed to be really secret because we're supposed to be the good guys, which we were. And so Sharper comes to me and said, yeah, about that, you need to take care of this. He needs to be dealt with. And he kind of left it at that. And he said, it's your job to deal with him. And like that was pretty open-ended, but the way he said it was like really late at night, or I'd been playing really long, so I was kind of hazy. And so I immediately found him. He was in the city. I went in there, and in front of the entire full city, I berated him for a long period of time, like just totally discredited him, made him look like an idiot in front of everybody there. Like I was really mean to this guy in a way that I feel bad about to this day. And like publicly ousted him and everything. And he sent me an email later saying, you know, I've never really cried because of a video game before that I was but then he said, you know, I figured out what you did, and in retrospect it was awesome, and I'm really glad to have been a part of it, but that was really intense. And, so like, it's like for me that's kind of like, wow, did I really do that? I mean, it was me, like I'm using my real name. And because of that, people are like posting in words like, this guy is evil. And I'm reading this, and like, you know, my mom can Google this and see Brian did this. It was a really tricky thing, but it was a lot of fun.
That's now my biggest disappointment. Because I told him to do it. I'm sorry.
My best experience, I mean, I had a lot of really good experiences with this character. I had a lot of fun. Came at a time where I'd just been laid off, so it became kind of, you know, here's, you know, my way to, you know, be part of a community, be a part of something. And it was just kind of, you know, I mean, this is a story, something I've heard from a lot of people that Uber became that thing that got them through whatever thing was going on at the time. So I had a lot of good experiences. I think my absolute favorite one was when I walked in, I had a tendency as JD just to wander around, you know, exploring. And I walked into the Beginner's of Evan, and there was a resident giving a meeting, in one of the things. They said, Ben, you should talk to JD if you want to know about some stuff. And I go, yeah. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And it was just, you know, just kind of off the cuff, you know. No one had heard what I was doing. So that was that was a big thing. Just to kind of know that what I'd done had an effect, and people noticed. I think the most disappointing part, I think it's something that a lot of people just kind of, you know, the fact that there was, you get to see the potential for these stories starting to really gear up. Echo was starting to catch on. You know, people were showing, you know, some interest in, you know, doing things like Polar documents and that sort of thing. And there, you know, once again, when Uber was shut down, there was a sense of, you know, we had all these stories ready, and now we don't know what to do with them. And I think that's kind of the most disappointing thing is that everyone had that feeling. You know, we care about this so much, but we don't know what to do. And we kind of all went in different directions and that sort of thing. And so there are a lot of stories that I want to see. I want to hear from people that people have talked about. You know, everything from the ubiquitous, you know, my family member is missing in some age sort of story. To some various personal things people talk about. You know, there's some training restorations. They had a story going on that I was actually following very closely. I just wanted to see where those went. And I hope someday that, you know, people will kind of get back together and, you know, start telling their stories again. You know, whether it's, you know, on the open source Myst Online or Second Life or on boards or whatever.
I think there's still a huge amount of room for us to be telling stories, and us to be sharing stories, and us to be creating stories. Like the work Martin does with his videos. Those are stories that he tells. You know, the artwork that people do, the work that the DLF does. We may not have the space of Uru to go traveling around in right now. We may not have that for months, years, who knows. But all of that information about Denis is still out there, and we still have those seeds to grow our own stories. And I think it's important that we keep doing that, because it's the heart of Denis, it's the mythos of Denis, it's the stories of Denis that brought us all together in the first place. And I think that's what's going to keep the community woven together, is continuing to share our stories about ourselves, about things we're interested in Denis or outside of Denis. We're a part of that mythology now. And to be a part of a living mythology like that is an incredible gift that Cyan gave us. It's an absolute gift. Most people don't get a chance to be part of a living, growing, dynamic mythology. It's something we read in books, it's something we watch on the screen. And we were alive in that. And I think we can sustain that even without the virtual world to go running around in. And that's what I'd like to see happen.
Please. Let's take one last question, and we'll have the final comments and move on to the next stuff.
Is there still room in this great environment for what I would call a true neutral? Because, yeah, you're laughing. But that was one of the things that I tried when I was dealing with Dark. Is that I refuse to be involved in any of this. My concern is actually right around here right now. End of story. And, pardon. And now where can one go in that environment? Do you have to end up stepping away into OOC to end up becoming honest?
I mean, I think I have a perspective on this. When I was involved, the neutrals were an interesting group, because my role was to try to get people involved in one direction or another, like vilify me or like get behind me, that sort of thing. And the people who were just like, I don't want to be involved in this, like stay away from me, that was fine. Like I respected that, and like I tried to avoid certain places so that I wouldn't politicize things or like just kind of like come in and barge in and ruin people's fun. But I think though that that's a big part of it. But in terms of like moving the story along, I had trouble with people who just didn't want to interact with the story because like it wanted to go somewhere. We wanted to take you somewhere. And maybe there were two sides, maybe there were three, maybe there were none. But there were trends and currents going along, and we wanted to sort of take you along one of those currents and see where we ended up. And the more people we had involved, the more fun it was. And the people who just kind of didn't want to be involved in it and just sort of appreciate the environment, total respect that. It's a beautiful environment, it's a beautiful set of puzzles and games, but we just wanted to sort of, I think, make it into something more living and alive. And it was a shame that we kind of came across wrong to some people, I think. And but I think that there should always be a place for people like that to interact. Like part of the big thing of Uru was it was a big chat room. Really, I mean, like people got around and talked like we do here, and like that shouldn't be taken away at all. I think that's really important, and it shouldn't. Like for me, when I was done being in the story, I took breaks by just going out to different ages with people and just kind of talking, and that's important. And I think you need that. But so that's my perspective. It's kind of a complicated balance.
I mean, I think that in terms of how you enjoy Uru, there's more to Uru than story. Of course, there's puzzles, there's background, there's community, and you don't have to focus on the story. It's not it's always there, and all other parts are always there too. So if that's not your thing, and if you don't want to get if you're not interested in what this faction might be saying or that faction might be saying, there's enough room in the group to not worry about that. But when you get into the story, no one's a true leader. There's no such thing. everyone has an opinion, and even everyone has an idea of who they're avoiding. And life is dynamic. People take sides. Sometimes people take the wrong side. People take the right side. Sometimes people take sides they don't need to. But when you're always when you're there in the story, immersive, there's always your side at the very least. So there's always there's no such thing as true neutral, because there's just no such thing as true neutral in life.
Yeah, I don't know. I need to say that much more. I mean, I think our take is the same. People who wanted to get involved in the story, it was there, and wanted to make it there, wanted to make it exciting and engaging and emotional. For people who didn't, great. Enjoy the environment. For a time, the story though, and this is just because of all the situations, it was the thing keeping it going. We weren't adding environments like we wanted to, so the story was kind of the thing keeping people, I would say, to a large degree, excited about the game. But again, I mean, neutral parties, I mean, like, a lot of this stuff we would have liked to have explored more as well. I mean, kind of beginning to establish the sides and the neutral parties, and it would have been great to see where it goes, but just give that chance.
So just pull out from everybody before we go. A few words on the story, or where do we go?
Keep thinking. Seriously, I mean, that's just keep thinking about this sort of thing. Keep dreaming. That's what keeps us glued together, is that we all share this common thread of loving Myst and Cyan and Denis and Uru and Riven and Exile. It's our foundation, and as long as we keep with that, then we're together.
Not to get too cheeseball here, but I mean, the Uru story was really cool, but I'm way more concerned about real stories in real life. And you all have a real story. We all do. We're all making real stories. I would encourage you to learn from the Uru story about the stories that matter. You know, what do you take from that with interaction, with neutral, with evil, with good? I mean, that's always, at least my point. I don't think we ever just wanted to make a video game. We wanted to make a video game that made people think and that mattered and affected the real story to a degree. Otherwise, we're just making cheap entertainment, and that doesn't excite me. So it's amazing to me that all of these stories in here came from the Uru story. That alone makes me feel pretty awesome, and that we did a successful thing, because it's amazing you guys all like each other and even come here year after year, or go somewhere year after year because of a virtual story. And the virtual story enabled you to connect on a real level and enabled you to get into each other's stories in a real world, and that matters to me. So I would encourage you to, keep dreaming, keep doing cool Uru stuff, but also just to keep creating your story in real life and getting involved in other people's stories on a real life basis. That's what really matters in the end.
Kind of similar to that, I found for me that the story of Uru actually sort of enhanced my real life. The way I interacted with it, the way I interacted with people, taught me a lot about who I was and what I could do in the real world. I mean, I learned through some skills that actually I use today in business. Getting people excited about things. That is such a useful skill. Like, telling a story is you taking people on a ride with you and getting them excited about the thing that you are, and that is so valuable in just personal interactions and in the real life. And I gained so much from having that opportunity. And the story enhanced my life by leading me to my wife, who is here today. And so, I mean, I owe a lot to the story of Uru and the world that was built here.
Once again, kind of in that vein, I really dislike the phrase "it's just a game," because Uru and Myst, they are games, but obviously there's more there. Just like there's more to Tolkien's work, there's more to there's lots of stories that expand outside that universe. So keep expanding. And for those people who want to do things in Uru, fanfic, videos, keep doing it. Don't stop. Take risks. Because I want to see it all. And if you don't, then I'll be mad at you. And I'll find you. So I'm greedy when it comes to stories. So go for it.
And back in 2003, as we were wandering around the buildings, someone saw something that gave us an idea of something cool for someone to have. And it was always just kind of in the back of my head, just kind of as a what if, but finally I kind of worked it out to get it. So, Fran. Warning, the floor is wet. Bravo for giving the pup dirty words and keeping this a secret.
So I keep thinking that this needs to be referred to as Falling Man instead of Mysterium at some point, the whole burning man. That's cool, that's awesome. I can't figure out where to put that. And if you know me, you know that I always give away too much information too.
Awesome.
And I'm feeling especially generous, so whatever you want to know, just let me know.
Are we reopening the tavern?
Yes.
And Cyan is the resident engineer's job, officially the worst job in the company.
The resident?
And is it punishment for bad behavior?
Oh my gosh, no. I mean, I can't really answer that, but I think that employees strive to be resident. You'll have to talk with them. Yeah. Yeah, now they have to answer. Yes.
Okay, mine's a game question. It took me 3 years to beat Revelation because of a slew of computer problems, but I have to ask, what were you thinking when we created Spire? Because that age was terrible as a prison age. I remember sitting there reading Age's journal going, no, you're dumb, what the heck? Because I just thought it was the worst prison age in the world.
It was probably, the one that was the most thought out and tested the best before it was ever built. More thought of it. It's funny because some of those later games, with Myst, we threw it together, right? I mean, we drew it on paper and we had like this instinctive feel that it felt good to us. And with Revelation, it was, I specifically remember, it was a huge production. We weren't quite as involved. But I remember Ubisoft saying, we have tested everything in this game over and over with people. The puzzles are perfect and everything is perfect. And I'm thinking, well, cool. and then I got in and I was playing part of it. The very first one with Adris saying, a little higher, a little lower. And I'm thinking, did you test that one? Because it's like the first puzzle and I don't even want to play anymore. Anyway, I disclaimed. Okay, next.
Oh God, Luca, no!
Stop it. Okay, I'm fascinated by psychology, which is one of the reasons that the Myst games were amazing to me, was because there's so much psychology involved. And one of the things I always wondered, 2 questions actually, both regarding Adris. The first was, I got the impression through Catherine's Revelation journals and from the Rhyme journal that Adris was somewhat neglectful to the boys when they were growing up. Is that true, or am I just reading into things?
No, that's true. Yeah, I think that's caused some of the problems. Yeah.
Me too. And I also wondered how much does Atrus's response as a neglectful parent, how much does that have to do with a reaction to Gen's parenting? Or parenting, as the case may be.
Parenting.
I think it's, I mean, I got to reach back in the story, and Ryan probably can help with this too, he's still around. But it was, that was always part of the flow, was that Atrus had issues. He was raised with his grandmother. Her father figure was missing for a lot of his years, and then he becomes, I mean, history in some ways repeats itself. With his boys, and here he is intent on certain things, but he misses the point of his own family and causes further distress. So yeah, you picked up on something that we thought was a thread that flowed through there. And also, we thought that with Yisha in particular, the tide changed, and finally it's like hitting the head with a 2x4, like, what am I doing? And everything got poured into Yisha, which shows up in her character. I mean, she's really quirky and has issues, but it was never from neglect. She got everything that her mother and father had to offer, which is what we wanted.
Did Atrus ever tell Yisha why the boys were imprisoned?
Atrus ever tell Yisha? I could make something up, but I don't think that part's been written necessarily. I don't know. Rawa? Did Atrus ever tell Yisha why the boys were in prison?
I'm sure he did.
Yeah. Sat him down and said, here's the story, dear. I was a bad father, and now I'm better. Something like that. Just don't touch that book.
That's a scary accent.
Okay, next.
Are you ever going to write about Circe and Achenor's past?
No. Are you ever going to write about Circe and Achenor's past? Probably not. There's too many cool things moving forward. I mean, if we do it, it'd be very light, but I think we tried that in comic books.
Yeah. Book of Black Ships, no.
Yeah. So yeah, we probably won't. We have some cool things moving forward. It's the story that excites us was the one moving forward that kind of went from Uru on, and we didn't get to tell because there was cool stuff that someday might be fun to put somewhere. So, go ahead. Any progress? Yeah. Someday we're gonna get that thing done. As I mentioned, it's a great story, and we want to do it right, and blah, 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 and yeah. At this point, we don't have a lot of resources to pull it off, but yeah, we still hold out hope. We have actually a lot of projects that we think are really cool, and that's on our list of really cool projects that we don't necessarily have time or money to pull off, but that one's close to all of us. We love that book and that story that's there waiting to be told. So, but no progress, to answer your question directly, instead of beating around the bush. Anyone else?
What are your feelings on the potential for the movie about the Book of Atrus?
Yeah, Book of Tiana. I'm really excited. It's been a really cool thing. Okay, so let's see. This is one that's fun to tell a little bit. We see all these crazy games being made in the movies. Like, what? You're making that game into a movie? What is wrong? What idea was that? Like, it's like we have novels with stories, and you pick that. So anyway, the Mysterium, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting my Mystery somethings confused. Mysterium guys sent us the stuff years and years ago, and they've done a lot of work, and I think you saw on that note I wrote on their website, whenever that was, a year or so ago, or it was that was the exciting part, is let's do this grassroots. Let's not go to Hollywood and whatever. let's see if grassroots wise we can make connections and let these guys do this. And because the main way I think good things get done is with passion, and those guys have real passion, and frankly, we're not real connected, and we get kind of tired, and I'm kind of old, in case you didn't know. I'm holding on to the last bits of brown hair that I have, right there. Losing it fast. So, you know, that younger, passionate generation and stuff they had in the story to tell is like, let's do it. And then there's a lot of hurdles you jump over and a lot of things they had to accomplish. And just recently, within the last month or two, they started making all kinds of connections and finished screenplay kind of stuff. And Myst came out on iPhone, which got a lot more buzz going because it kind of did good. And they got some inroads to present what they've done to people who could actually help them get movies done, and the only thing lacking was the official option. And I don't even know how Hollywood works on all this, but at some point they were like, "Can we have the option?" And I'm like, "Oh, what's that? How does that work?" "Okay." And they're like, "No, you can't just say okay. You have to like sign papers and stuff." Like, "Oh, okay." Papers. So we talked about it, and it involves trust in both directions. But frankly, I'd rather work on trust than contracts because, I mean, it's only as good as the trust anyway. So I'd rather work on trust with somebody I trust than sign a 800-page contract with somebody I don't. So anyway, we let them have it. We basically gave them an option for like $1 and said, "Okay, it's yours. Let's see if we can make it happen." So they officially are the keepers of the Book of Tiana. They've got the screenplay that they wrote. They've got some nice connections that they've made, some through fans, some through just the interweb of people saying, "Oh, I know somebody here and here, and oh, I played Myst back in the day, and what kind of movie were you thinking?" It's like, "Oh no, there's a book, we have a screenplay, here it is, we got a package." And so they're in the process now of officially doing that. It's like saying, "We have the option, let's go." And so we're right at that cusp where somebody could go, "Okay, cool, we want it, let's do it," and then it sits in development hell for another 7 years or something. Or not, but this is the best way I can think of to get it done. So yeah, we're excited.
So when they do get the movie rolling down the roll, you can play.
Well, of course I will be Atris. I figure we've been talking it over with my daughters and family, and it's like, I'll probably have a cameo in the coffee shop, like. Maybe I can say something like, "Bring me the donuts," or something. Better be somebody handsome who plays Atris, that's all I can say. Oh, you know who I want to play Atris? Somebody brought this up. I want that guy on Lost, Faraday. What's his name?
You want him?
Cool. That guy is cool. I love that character. It's kind of got just enough geek in him to be Atris. Sweet. Okay, next. In the back.
Speaking of future and on the cusp and open, give us any information about open source and where that's going.
I can, what's that?
Vincent, is it more
we let's see here. We're rolling down the, I'll make a story out of this. Chugging down the open source path because we don't really have anything else to do. And we're hoping for things to do because we've laid off people, we don't have any income, and we need kind of money. And then this other deal came in where people said, "Hey, we kind of like you to use your engine and do this stuff for us." And suddenly Mark DeForest, who was the engineer of the open source train, choo-choo, suddenly got involved in other things. And we have our plans of what laid out, what we need to do. And some of it is just technical. We have to pull certain things out that we've licensed that we can't just let the public use, and we have to we have plugins that we have to be careful with letting out, and we've got a plan on how to do it, but suddenly Mark DeForest was engaged in money bringing in work, and so that took priority. So we still have no other plans other than to do open source and let you out there. And this time we're thinking we want to do something a little different. Boy, it's been a while since we did all this, but we'd like to run a server or run servers, but still have open source where people are able to build stuff and adjust stuff, but we'd be more the keeper of it, and see where that goes. Because it seemed like that might be a cool way to do it. That way we keep things going, but it's still passing through a filter. But anyway, that's the plans, and as soon as really we run out of work, we'll get back on that.
I have sort of a follow-up question. Are you planning on releasing the server code and the engine code separately, so you could just run like a server and plug another engine into it, or does it have to go together?
You know anything? I don't. I mean,
The only code I ever looked at from the other was
yeah, I think it's a fit together kind of thing, and some of that is okay. So we're planning for the future. We want to open it up where all this is this weird parallel with the Dunning universe, where we want everybody who wants to be a writer to be a writer, and at the same time, there's like these, master writers who we like to think of ourselves as, who have potential in the future to maybe do books that we could add in that might be income producing, but keeping it all together and letting you guys write stuff that would be fun to experiment with, and then a potential for us to stick a book in that would be like, oh, cool, that's, continues the story. It seems like a cool way to do that. So I think we're planning on keeping things tightly tied together.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Time to race.
You're fired. I should have done that more subtle, like, there's something to talk to you about. Could you give me an office?
Can I have a straw?
6 years ago here, I asked you what you thought of Exile, and you said you liked it, but you hadn't finished it. 3 years ago, you said you'd finished it, but you hadn't finished Revelation. Have you finished playing Revelation yet?
No. Fail! I never got past the Angels part. Seriously, I couldn't stand hearing myself say that stuff. Drove me crazy. I remember recording it. I didn't even know necessarily what the game was, and they had me in the sound room like, oh, just read these things, and I'm thinking, okay. Less frequency, a little higher frequency, a little louder, a little quieter, a little whatever it was. Stretch it out, make it smaller. Oh my gosh. And then when I got to that part, it's like, I can't stand hearing myself. Did somebody get me past this?
I have a question. This fans are pretty good at figuring out the context necessary. But has there ever been something that you thought was really cool in one of the games that the fans just never picked up on?
Oh, man, that's a great question. Yes, there's been tons of stuff. Unfortunately, I can't remember it right now. But most of it's not puzzle-related stuff as much as story-related stuff. Like, we would throw stuff out there story-wise, thinking the fans would, because the hive mind works in mysterious ways. Once the hive mind latches onto something, it's like a done deal. You guys, dissect it, and spit out, But sometimes getting the hive mind to understand that you have to latch on here, that was, that's it. And to be honest with you, it's because of so much noise that you guys never know what is a red herring, what's random, and what is information that might actually mean something. The most fun thing that took the longest for the hive mind was the Mysterium in New Mexico. That we thought you guys would completely just disintegrate that. You know, thought somebody would pick it up because there were billboards and newspapers and stuff, and all we heard was the desert wind. So that was kind of fun. And there were other little things. I wish I had more time to think about those. Rawa, do you remember? Even if Rawa remembered, he wouldn't say. Right now he's going, don't tell him about the billboard. So, and for heaven's sakes, I mean, Zandy was at Mysterium in New Mexico. Zandy was there. Flesh and blood. What's it take, you people?
We dissect the random things, I think. We don't notice the obvious. So true.
Yeah, that's right.
When you get a chance, would you come up with like a Ramsgate list thing? And like send it to the list?
Of like things that you
Stuff
missed?
Yeah, stuff that would be
if something comes to mind, I'll jot it down of things. But actually, what I need to do is do that concurrently, because the stuff that's gone a lot of times is gone. But the whole blending, by the way, the whole blending of the real world and virtual world is like the coolest thing ever to me, and I love that. You know, just blurring that line and making people really angry. So, you know, keep your eyes on every single little bit of information all around you, all the time. You never know when it might mean be part of a game or not.
You know, I've always loved the Myst mythos because it's so deep and so rich, but even though it's clearly Cyan's masterpiece, it's not the only thing you've ever done. You did The Manhole, Cosmosmo, Spelunks, and very recently Cosmosmo Hexile. You know, just a couple years ago in Los Angeles Mysterium, the very last night there were a few of us just sat down and played around in Cosmosmo for an hour.
Oh, yeah.
It was really fun, and so while I certainly want to see more of the Myst universe, whether it's Book of Merum or Open Source Uru or something official from you, big or small, I can't help but be curious, have you considered making something entirely new, completely outside the Myst universe? Not necessarily just, you know, something big and revolutionary like another online thing or new interface, but even just a simple single-player game?
Yeah, so the question was, in a nutshell, like Myst, deep story, but you also did some fun kids projects and other little things. Would you ever plan on doing stuff that's not Myst in the future, even single player? And the question is yes, we considered that. There's actually a few ideas, which are probably hanging on the walls around here, that have come and gone. Lattice, which probably everybody knows about. There was a project called Abduction, which was more of a single-player game that we thought was really cool. Well, some of us. There's a few more that are our little internal code name things that we thought were unique games, but we weren't sure. Publishers, you know, once again, we're a dying breed here to have a big, you know, development house. So having it smaller and tighter and cleaner and in inexpensive parts of Europe or China are the way things are going. So we got to figure out how to make that work, and maybe the iPhone is a way to do that, because it's somehow easier and quicker to do things on an iPhone, and you don't work with a publisher, and you get it out easier, and the proceeds come more directly to you. So it's straighter. But those are all things on the blackboard that may see the light of day, and we'd love to do, that aren't related to Myst, but it's just figuring out how to do them. There's not an app for that. Oh wait, you've been waiting patiently.
Two separate game questions. One, what is Peacock? I saw that upstairs. And two, is there something else? Is there quote unquote something else
Isn't it still somewhere on a burner someplace?
Which something else is that?
Oh, yeah.
I remember it.
Unless it's last week or something else.
I remember something else.
I think, is that? Anyway, I'm losing track of which something. Peacock. Peacock is, that's funny, I forgot that was up there. Peacock is like, Robin and I did 2 HyperCard utilities back when we were learning HyperCard, like before the days of Mantle or right in that area. One was Peacock and one was Mockingbird. Canary. That's right, Canary. We had to change it to Canary. Copyright reasons. So Canary and Peacock. Peacock was a HyperCard database export tool, which, by the way, I used recently, I think for Myst for the iPhone. Like, gosh, I got to get this data out of here. I'll use Peacock. And Canary was a MIDI sequencer done in HyperCard that we actually used even on Manhole to do some of the music before we could do like recorded music, and you could, it actually had MIDI input capability, so you could hook up a keyboard and play, you know, whatever you wanted, and it would come up and you could slide the notes anywhere you wanted, and then change the instruments to whatever you wanted, and output it in a HyperCard button that would play that song. So yeah, Canary and Peacock, there you go. That's reaching way back. Way back. Eleri, I think I saw you next.
So, when you're done in Austin, you told me there's still one of those pre-after stones out there.
There's what?
One of those pre-after stones things still out there.
I don't know what you're talking about.
They're still there.
Where'd you hear that from?
You should go check out.
You know, maybe everywhere you look, you should just dig a hole.
All right, this is new request.
Oh, wait. Well, hold that thought. How many people knew about pre-after? Or knew anything about the pre-after stuff? Not a lot. Yeah, not a lot of hands. How many people were like, pre-after, what the heck are you talking about? Yeah, it was a little pre-Uru alternative reality kind of game that we did. Which, by the way, I mean, the stuff even the little things we did in Riven that you may not be aware of. What was that guy's name in that whole thing? Guildmaster. Was it Telanis or? It was the stuff during Riven. We had like some crazy games going on during Riven, where this saying to Dunny would show up. It was on CNN, and only because it interviewed Josh and it was behind him on the screen, and it would show up in different places. And then there was a website you could go to, and there was phone numbers, and there was this whole game outside of a game. I think it was actually the first ARG ever done, and eventually, like, somebody got. That's right. There's before Riven got a beta copy, like on a burned CD, and they couldn't reveal anything. In a stroke of genius marketing on our part, the winner was not allowed to talk about it. Maybe we should have rethought that. It seemed really smart at the time. No, and they shouldn't say a word. Awesome. That's why this building's empty. Okay.
We only talk about how cool it is, but no details.
Yeah. No, so anyway, somebody had to call a phone
At a specific minute.
at a specific minute, during that minute, and offer a phrase in Dunny. And it was a specific specific day, a specific minute only had to call this line, and if they did it. And it was kind of obscure on how it all came about, and somebody did it who's lost to history now. I don't know who it was. It was a female voice, that's all I know, who won. Somebody called like the minute before, or not on the minute, and if they called it the wrong time, I think it was Ryan Miller, who's like, hello? And they're like, some dunny phrase they say, and he's like, who is this? They hung up. They're like, oh, I guess I messed up. And if you call in, it's like, maybe they'll call back. Nope. Missed it by that much. And then somebody nailed it. Said, called up and spoke in Dunny and won the prize. So that was cool. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
All right. This is a question about pod ages.
Pod ages. Yes.
I understand that there were animals for the first one. Where are the animals for the other ones?
Dead.
Animals are really hard to do. Pods, on the other hand, are really easy. So we worked on the pods first, always planning that we get time to stick those animals in.
What was the animal for the broken pod?
What was the broken? I don't even remember. What's the broken pod? That wasn't the dark one, right?
Yeah, the dark one.
Maybe we made that dark so we didn't have to put an animal in.
Sounds
Did we mention our budget got really tight toward the end there? We had to come up with content and like pods with nothing in them. We wanted to put stuff in.
Just be glad that it wasn't wireframes, right?
Exactly. By the way, how many of you liked, was it Mikata?
Yeah.
Is that the desert one?
Yeah.
How many of you loved that? That was big. It was big, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was big. It was empty.
When we were designing Mikata, the design group, we got in the rooms like, okay, we just made the pods. Now what? Big, like 10 miles. But the engine can't handle it. Well, don't put anything there. Just desert, but big desert. Maybe you explored the edges of it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And there was nothing there.
Sweet. If you want. Yeah, didn't you want to just run? What's out here? Are part of my sick, twisted mind. Mikata, which is 10 miles in every direction, versus what's the puzzle where you had to stay in one place for 13 minutes? So you didn't like that one?
You could
How many people thought that was okay? I hated it, but it was pretty cool. 13 minutes! What game would make you stay in one place without touching the mouse or keyboard for 13 minutes?
Just go make a sandwich or something.
I thought that one was great. I had to push hard to get that one through. Everybody here at the office was like, man, you can't do that. It's like, yeah! No way! 13 minutes will make them stand there. Don't move. They won't believe it's true. I thought that was great. And how many of you read the entire book of, the prophet? All those pages.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. That's good stuff right there. You write all that stuff.
I want to be you guys' writer who comes up with all
Okay, more questions. Sorry, I'm not even answering questions.
Which one of you do we have to blame for the pellets taking forever?
Oh, Robert.
Too short. Also, who do we get to blame for the light monitoring machine breaking?
Oh, the ballot.
Yeah, the that Dalek.
What happened? What was the light monitoring machine?
The weird machine you added in the fairy box.
That was probably lack of funds. We're gonna shut down the light monitor machine. Yes, sir.
So, as the community goes on, we've got lots of projects, we've got guilds, and if you were to come out of the guild and said, what would you like to see the community do with your world? That's my
Fiction.
Well, I mean, the interesting thing is that people are entertained in a lot of different ways, and how the discussion between the neutrals and the side takers, but there's much more than that. There's neutrals and side takers and helpers and instigators, and then there's creatives, and then there's followers, and then there's lurkers, and just like there's different kinds of human personality. So the interesting thing is, if you're not making content, some of those personalities are satisfied because you build relationships and you get to do those things, but it's the content that keeps us going. The hardest part of all this, though, is, I don't want Uber to become Second Life necessarily, and that's not a dig on Second Life. It's just that there's so much stuff in Second Life that I don't even know. It's hard to cull through it all. But I think that you guys making content that shows up in the world is like somehow a key to it staying alive, and us being able to add things maybe that are more, we'll call them blessed only because they're, we know where the story arc should go. We don't really want to tell you because it's cool, but if we ever get a chance, you'll like it. We don't want to ruin that surprise. So if at some point we release open source, and you guys can get back into the cavern and ages come out that are like dunny writers who write ages that are not like the masters, but like people who are learning to write ages. I think that's kind of cool. Because what that means is, and this is where we always wanted to go, is that there will be people who are creatives who want to do that. There will also be people who are maintainers or testers who want to join the Guild of Maintainers, who are the first ones to go in and go, I fell through the world here. Good thing I had my maintainer suit on, or fallen forever. There are people who are cartographers who want to document those new ages and put them somewhere. There are people who want to translate things in the ages or help document things in those new ages. There's people who want to be helpers in those new ages, and all those things would be cool to have guilds that correspond to them in the real world. If we were starting to go that way, and to me, it's taking the idea of the dunning guilds and moving it into practical application if it goes open source. What new guilds would there be where people can merge their personalities into that kind of thing? That's what I love. That's what I would really love.
Yeah, I'm on a scale like now, we're going to build workers who's fine for this. Okay, being a physicist, engineering kind of guy, so what resources do you need to get the open? I mean, you're talking about what you'd like to produce, but that's the problem. We don't have things open source out there for people to play with. So what resources do you need to accomplish that?
The biggest issue we have right now is we built these tools for us, and there's proprietary stuff, or stuff that we have to license. We have to pay money to and embed it in the engine that we can't just release to the public necessarily. And it's not just the server engine, it's actually the tools that work in 3D Studio Max so that you can build the ages too. And there's the problem of normal people don't necessarily always have 3D Studio Max, but enough might have it, and we have plugins that work in there. And so all that is kind of detaching the pieces and the weirdness that we built to get it out there to people so they can do it. And that just takes a technical resource ability, people who know the inside of it, which at this point is limited in our company.
Yeah, but you're basically, earlier you were essentially saying that there's, in effect, if you got one person that's tied up, that implies that get one person to shake loose and get it done, is that correct?
Yeah, I think it would take, I mean, Mark before us probably knows the stuff in the engine is as good as anybody we've got right now. And he doesn't even work here, he works in the Tri-Cities area. But he's working on other stuff, but it would probably take him a month or so, calling through stuff, maybe 2 months. Although he's good at saying it would take 90 days for everything you ask him. So
I usually use 2.5 multiplier. Somebody tells me you have days multiplier.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you're not, in essence, you're saying it isn't a great deal of effort.
No, it's not a great deal. It's just we don't have even a little deal of people, of resources right now. So it's just, and we were going down that path because it's like, well, we've got a little money left. Hopefully we can get some jobs, but while Mark's waiting, maybe we can get this to open source. And some of it, Mark wasn't even getting paid for.
Any creative way to arrange to do that with, say, talented volunteers?
I would think so. It's a little bit harder for talented volunteers because you guys will be working with code you haven't necessarily seen before, although who that you may have.
Not that I'm volunteering, mind you, but
yeah.
I figure if I bring it up, all of a sudden maybe something might happen.
Right, right. And I think that's another guild, in a weird kind of way, of people who are working behind the scenes. So to answer your question, yes, I think it's possible. I think there's some technical issues with there, like, you know, what do we send and how do we send it, and who do we send it to, and who's the keeper of that stuff, and but at this point it's kind of just sitting there. So we have no problem. By the way, another reason we're don't have necessarily a lot of people in this building is I don't have a problem with just giving it away if someone can use it at this point. So it sounds like fun. It's just a matter of making those right connections and tying it up.